Here at Be Freaking Awesome, we believe that life is too short to be anything less than extraordinary. Join us as we explore what it means to live authentically, grow continuously, and have a blast while doing it. Let's get started. Welcome everyone to this week's episode. I am so excited to be joining you all with Angela Belford, fresh off the plane and getting back from her trip. Let me let you in behind the curtain a little bit on podcast time. Every episode that you have heard prior to this point in the year 2026 was recorded within like a 2 to 3 week period before Angela left for Europe. And then here we are. If you follow her on social media, she has been gone to the Winter Olympics, to Greece, to Vienna, to Budapest, to all of these, Madrid, just world traveler across Europe and living a luxurious life, of course. And today she's back. I picked her up from the airport an hour and a half ago. We got on a podcast, and this episode is going to be potentially 2 versions, not 2 parts, but 2 versions. There'll be one version that's a little more of our standard podcast way we have topics, and it's, maybe 20-30 minutes there or so. And then we're going to have the extended version that is Sammy and Angela catching up about her trip, because while she has been 7, 8, 9 hours in the future for the past month, there's not as much time to hear all of the details and all the stories. And so we want to model what our friendship looks like, and or just let you all in behind the curtain. So without further ado, Angela, welcome back. How are you feeling?
Well, I'm feeling really good, and I find it very ironic that last week's episode was on disappointment, and through, the power of podcasting, you guys haven't even heard that episode.
At this moment that we're recording.
Anyway, and so then to have done this just epic trip, it's a great time to talk about how did you manage through? And I think the reason why we talked about disappointment was actually because I was nervous about it. This trip has been in the planning stages. I mean, technically the idea was planted in the summer of 2024, when we were at the Summer Olympics, and we left the Summer Olympics and we went to Geneva, and then we just stopped in Milan, mainly because we didn't want to ride a train for 6 hours. So we were like, oh, we'll ride 3 hours and then we'll go do Milan. And in Milan, there were already signage for the next Olympics, Milan Cortina. And I was like, wouldn't it be fun to be a volunteer? And so that's literally when this idea for this trip started. And so we did apply to be a volunteer. We weren't selected. And once we figured out we weren't selected, we've been hardcore planning for 7 or 8 months. And probably the way we travel, people think that's the norm. That is so not the norm. Not the norm at all. We pick a location 6 or 7 months in advance, but we do not plan at the level that we did for this trip. And we kind of had to, because 5 countries, 6 cities, it was pretty great.
So can you give us the high level real fast of 5 countries, 6 cities? What did you do for those of us, even my own self, who got confused along the way of where you were?
Exactly. Yeah. I sort of want to set up a little bit, because we had planned we're going to be gone for 2 weeks. I had to come home to the International Builder Show in Orlando. So we had a hard stop I needed to be back. I wanted to be back in the States on February 15th. So then we started planning back from that. Well, a few months ago, I had figured out that I hadn't really taken a real vacation. We had taken one family trip in August, but I hadn't taken a real vacation in 2025, because we were planning for this trip. I joked the whole year and said my credit card dialed in and said, hey, gonna need you to take a little break. Anyway, so I just a few months ago, I think it was in November, I was like, no, let's work a week in Europe. We've always wanted to know if we could work not on Central Standard Time in some other countries. So we added on Greece. And what's cool is that when we decided to do that, the way we decided is Barry will get on kayak and just be like, I'm going to go from X and A to Europe. Where are we going? and it will tell you pricing for the dates you want to go. And so for our dates that we wanted to go, he's like, "How do you feel about Athens?" And I was like, "Oh, that picks up another country." And I was like, "Let's see what the Airbnb rates are." And so I could get a week of on Airbnb for $470, and I was like, "Done and done." And that was the cheapest flight too. It was like $500 round trip. So we started in Greece. This was an interesting experiment. We played during the day, and then because of the 7-hour time difference, we would clock in to work, or we would get online to work at about 5 o'clock each night. And the early part of the week, when I was like, "Oh, when we first get to Europe, I'm still on Central Time," we had appointments scheduled until like 11 o'clock at night. I think the latest I went, I was like, "It's 11:45. I want to go now. Bye." By the end of the week, I knew by Thursday, I was like, my latest appointment will be noon Central Time, which would be about 7 o'clock there. So we started in Greece. We went to Budapest, and there's even stories about that, about how we were going to go this one day, but then the flights got stupid expensive, so we added another day. And anyway, so we went to Budapest, Hungary, for 3 days. So we'd never been to Greece, never been to Hungary. We were in there. We flew in early Friday morning, and then we had train tickets out on Monday. We went over to Vienna,
Mhm.
Austria. Did not know when we picked those two how tightly connected they were historically, those two cities.
Mhm.
I mean, it was only a 2.5 hour train ride, so maybe we should have figured that out. Anyway, we spent 3 days in Vienna, and then we took a flight down to Milan, where we had tickets to the opening ceremony. We had tickets to see two different Da Vinci paintings, which are crazy cool stories. And then we had three opening ceremony hockey tickets and figure skating tickets. And then on Monday, we used to transition. So, what that looked like for us is we got on a train early that morning, rode it to Venice. It's funny, I was telling somebody that where we were going, they said, "Oh, the only thing better is if you added Venice." And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, we're spending the day in Venice, so we don't even count it." Anyway, so we did. We went and spent the whole day in Venice, and then made our way up to um, a, a town about halfway between Venice and Cortina, which is where I could afford the Airbnb. And so we stayed in that city so that we could go to the Olympics events in Cortina, Italy. That's a whole experience. Getting to Cortina, getting up to the slopes, that was super fun. And then we drove to Madrid, or we flew to Madrid. And we did that because by getting to Madrid, it was a major airport, and we could leave Madrid and leave at 11:30 and land in Orlando at 4. If we stayed over in Central Europe, then we would be leaving at like 7 a.m. and landing at 7 p.m. in Orlando. So we just started a couple of days early and ended up vacationing in Madrid, like literally just goofed off and did not a whole lot of anything. So that was the trip.
I love it. Thank you for giving us the high level. I we're gonna take a couple of like trips around the mountain on this
Yep.
instead of telling stories linearly
Yeah. No.
because one, it's tricky to do that sometimes and we can get lost in the weeds. I would love to hear back in my journalism days, aka when I was a student of the journalism department and really frustrated with journalism, and all of those things, we talked about when you write a story, you got to tell me like what's the big idea first, and then as the story goes down, I get to like add more details that
Mm, yeah.
maybe if I just needed to skim what's the big ideas. We're gonna kind of take the same format here. We're gonna talk with like the big ideas, and then we're gonna get more details as we go.
Hmm.
I know that you knew that this episode was coming, that you were going to be talking about like what are the things you learned, what are the skills that you got to demonstrate, all of the things like that. Can you let's pick one. What's something that you had to sort of carry with you and embody to live a freaking awesome life in Europe or that helped you along the way?
Yeah, I say often that my life is pretty it's low abrasion. And that I mean that like other people are sandpaper in your life that help you smooth out and make you grow and be a better person. And since I get to kind of curate the people that are in my life pretty well. Travel really gives me a context to see where are some areas that I still need to grow and how do I need to grow. And so that's sort of the context that I approach travel, which people are like, "Can don't you just rest?" I'm like, "Sure, I do, but man, if you hear all of the travel excursioning." So I would say that the skills that I really um, was very happy that I had on board.
Can I add a real quick thought on rest and then keep going? This is the anecdote. Go
Go.
check out our episode on the 7 different kinds of rest, because when people are like, don't you just want to rest? It's like, I get enough physical rest. I actually need creative rest and mental rest. And the way that you get those things is by stimulating yourself in other ways. So this is rest to have a creative reset and to give yourself new things. Sorry. I'll
A
put that link in the show notes. Go listen to that
1,000%.
episode too.
No, thank you for reminding me of that because it is different. And I I talk a lot about the idea of decide in advance who you want to be and work toward that person. And so, like, one of the things that I continually celebrated is that back in September, I did my second time where I did only a backpack. I didn't do a rolling bag, I did a backpack. And I hurt so much on carrying the weight of what would be a rolling bag on my back and my like, when I was in Phoenix, the whole 3 days I was there for the conference, my shoulders hurt, and I only carried the backpack 15 minutes, and, across one convention center, so maybe 20 minutes, and so I one of the things that I did is I actually hired a physical trainer and have been working out 2 days a week, lifting and strengthening my upper body so that I could be prepared for this. And I love when our physical um, we have a physical situation that teaches us something mentally. And so for me, sometimes it's hard to know like what is the mental that I growth that I need, but I knew that this was an area and every single time I was able to pick up that backpack and put it on and then not be hurting. I would be tight the next day, but it was not pain.
Mm.
There was one day, yes, actually, the last day of my trip when I was super tired. I was didn't have Barry who had been helping me with an extra backpack. I was trying not to break some stuff. Anyway, I got a little frustrated with the weight of the backpack. But besides that, that was one of the things is that I decided how I wanted to show up and I worked toward that for months. You know, another thing I did is I knew I had a lot of work that needed to get done, and there were going to be a lot of big events happening while I was gone from a work perspective. And I decided how I wanted to when I would literally visualize when I sit down on the plane, when I take off at XNA, how do I want to feel? What do I need to do to feel that way? What are the systems? What are the processes? And so I would say that this trip really gave me a lot of great um, confirmation that that actually does work. To think about how you want to show up, to think about how you want to be. I would say even all the travel that Barry and I do, we do it with the idea that we've watched our friends that are in their 70s slow down just a little bit. And at 70, I may not be able to walk 3 or 4 or 6 blocks with a 45-pound backpack. I may that may not be a thing. And so we plan all of our travel assuming that by the time we're 70, we may wanna slow down just a little bit. And so I think that that's one of the things is that was good confirmation. Another thing, skills that I had to use were, flexibility, flexibility. Go with the flow. Everything's gonna work out the way it's supposed to. Um, and then I embracing the idea of yes and because sometimes things just weren't going to work out the way you planned, and you go, okay, well, yes, we're going to do this thing, and we're going to get to do this other thing. Something different worked out.
Mhm.
So those are kind of plan who you want to be. Flexibility is key to traveling light, and embrace yes and.
I love it. What If you have like one story, if you could pick one story that's maybe like your favorite from this trip, what story is it?
I don't know if this will be considered a story,
Mm.
because technically a story is defined as, the hero going on a journey. Well, not the hero, but like, there's some
That's a
sort of
good
transformation.
story. That's a
Yeah,
good
that's a
stories.
good story. When uh, the day that we went to Cortina, so number one, we got alpine skiing tickets like kind of last minute, like 3 weeks before we went. We had this opportunity to buy these tickets. And I just didn't know what was entailed. Like, we just watch these things on the Olympics, and you just don't really think about how do you actually get to the top of a mountain? How do you get a couple thousand people up to the top of a mountain to watch these skiers? And so for us, because we were staying outside of Cortina, budget friendly, we got on a bus. It was 45 minutes. We get off the bus and we're like, now where do we go? And so I wander into some place and and they say, "Oh, you go here." And so they walked us far enough so that we could see the signs to the shuttle. And this shuttle was going to take us to the venue. So we go get on the shuttle and we get out at the venue, air quotes, and now they're like, okay, now you're going to walk. I think there was about a half mile between those two buses. So then now you're going to walk, and it's probably a quarter of a mile. I mean, it was a good distance in the snow up to the gondola. Oh, cool. We're going to go to the gondola. The gondola is going to take us to the event venue, right? And maybe people that ski, like they're going, yeah, this is just how you do it. I've skied before and this was not my experience. So we ride the gondola, we go up, and then we walk another half mile up, up, up. And they've laid down like rubber mats. Well, first you got to go down. So they've got down rubber mats on the snow so that you can actually walk and not fall. And then you have to walk up and up and up and up some more. And then we get up there and Barry's like, yeah, we have standing tickets. And I'm like, we're here until 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It is just now 10. It starts at 10. We're what? What do you mean we have standing tickets? And what's cool is that that was the day that I needed all of my winter clothes. So, we wore our 2 layers, which was standard, 2 layers everywhere we went in Italy. Then I had to put on my bike pants on top of that. And there's a picture of me and you could just barely see. And here's the thing that I love about that picture is that I was happy. Like, if you would have asked me, hey, when you get to do this thing, are you going to be grumpy that you're going to be up there and once the sun goes away, then you're going to be cold? You know, water is $5 and they wouldn't let you bring water in, like all these things. And it was like, I just sat there so full of joy and was like, this was so cool. And by the time then you have to reverse all that,
Yeah.
right, to get back home, which we reversed all that to actually go to the luge because we had tickets that night. And so, I I would not have expected me to be in a situation where I was that cold and had to be that bundled up. I wasn't that cold. I had to be that bundled up so that I wasn't cold. I wouldn't have expected to be that happy because I'm usually pretty grumpy when it's cold.
Yeah. I have definitely experienced cold, grumpy Angela before, and not a thing
He-
that she likes to be.
Here's the thing is that one time, one of my best friends said, you get angry when you're cold. Like, it's not just uncomfortable, but you get angry. And there's this element of like, I think it takes me back to the worst parts of my childhood because
Mm.
the worst parts of my childhood were, we didn't have heat. We had to melt snow to wash dishes. Like there's some pretty tragic stories. And so I think that it inadvertently takes me back to the worst parts and I'm unprepared and I get caught off guard with that.
Mm.
So yeah, I was very delighted that I got to spend so much time. I mean, days in the cold, probably 10 or 11 days of this was I outside in the elements cold, and I mostly did okay.
Yeah.
Luckily, Barry forgets often how grumpy I am. He just like that's just part of being with Angela. She's grumpy sometimes, but anyway, so I feel like I've grown in that way too. Like I think my nervous system work that I've done the last 4 years has helped so that I'm not as easily activated.
Yeah. What you had shared a post on Facebook that talked about 80-year-old Angela is
Mm,
so excited for these stories, and 8
yeah,
year old Angela is so proud of where she's come. Can
yeah.
you talk more about that? Like, what are the things that you're proud about, and what are the things that you're excited about?
Yeah, well, I've seen this I've seen this meme or, quote graphic a couple of times on Instagram the last like 6 or 8 weeks, and it's like the 2 people you need to worry about impressing is 80-year-old you and 8-year-old you, and it so aligns with what I talk about all the time of talking using past you to help you in your journey and future you to pull you forward and the wisdom and all of that. So I love that concept, and um I would say that probably what comes to mind is several years ago, we had Barry's sister called us from Florida and said, "Hey, we're going to be vacationing up in Arkansas. Is this place in Arkansas close to you?" And we were like, "Well, it's 4.5 hours away." And which is most people would define as not close to us. But we were like, but it's not 24 hours. It's closer than Key Largo. So if you're going to be in Arkansas, we are going to come and visit with you. And so I had come in from a trip. I literally had to pack a bag before I left and leave it with Barry because he picks me up from the airport and we go to this thing because that's the only way we're going to get there with any reasonable amount of time. But here's the thing is that the people that they were vacationing with were in their 70s and there was no end to the awesome stories they had. Oh, remember when we saw this person in concert back in ba 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 ba, and remember this person, and they would tell these just really fun stories. And I was like, I wanna be the cool 70-year-old with cool stories and all of
Mm.
these really great adventures. And I think it solidified that idea of being like 80-year-old me having great stories. Because sometimes you can think nobody wants to hear my stories. I mean, like these young people don't care about it. And I was hanging on the edge. I kept asking them questions. So 80-year-old me is gonna will tell the crazy stories about, like, we did the Budapest walking tour on the Buddha side, and then we did it on the Pest side, and we heard similar things, but one of them was from a historian, the other one was from practically a stand-up comic. Very, very, like, similar information and very different experience. I have so much more, um fleshed out understanding of World War II on the Axis side versus on the Allied side. So that was cool because I'm a World War II. If you don't know this about me, I'm a complete World War II nerd. I've been to all of the museums in DC, New Orleans, Liverpool, England, France,
You did the one in
Paris.
France even when you had a rough time there, and I was so like, "Oh, no, but I couldn't wait to hear." Even if you had a rough time in that, ended up for other reasons, but still, you've done a lot of them.
I did, and what's cool is that I was having a very, very hard time. I don't know that I will ever forget the moment when I was having a complete and total meltdown. I now will blame a lot on jet lag, and I called you crying from the
You were
bathroom.
in
Um,
Paris.
I was in
This is a different
Paris.
trip.
Yeah, this was several years. This is my first time to that I went to Paris, and I finally got to the point where I was like, okay, what do you do to calm yourself down when you're at home? Okay, you sit and play cell phone. You play a game on your cell phone to, like, unwind, to go to sleep, and so I sat overlooking the sarcophagus of Napoleon
Bonaparte.
Bonaparte playing a cell phone game, and I'm like, "If anybody saw me right now, they would think this is the most ridiculous thing," but it's what I knew to do that I could just sit there and be like, "I don't give a shit what any of these people say. I'm just gonna calm myself down." And then I was able to calm myself down and then go and see the Free France exhibit and the Charles de Gaulle exhibit. Anyway, all of that to say, and now I've seen the museums in Vienna, and I have so many thoughts. Like I want somebody that loves this stuff as much as I do to like sit because I have so many thoughts on like World War II and the aftermath of it, and not everybody. So anyway, if you're out there and you love to talk about nerdy stuff like that, I would love for somebody, because I just have weird observations that I want to share with people. Somebody.
Can I ask you to share a few of those right now? Like, why not? We're going deeper. People, if you've got what you need to out of this, like, move on, fast forward. I don't know. Like, what do you got? Give me a few of them.
Yeah. So number one is like Austria voluntarily annexed into Germany. Like that, like we've seen it on Sound of Music, right? Like, so we kind of sort of knew this a little bit, but I didn't really get that I have spent so much of my time studying leadership through the lens of World War II, and kind of
Winston
how,
Churchill and all of those. Yeah.
I mean, we do not study Charles de Gaulle enough in America. And if you want an example of somebody who just would not give up, he went to Churchill and said, "Hey, we're about to lose our country. Can you help me out?" And Churchill says, you fine, go on back there." And he goes back, and the next day, Paris falls, the day after Charles de Gaulle. And so he gets back on the ship and he goes back and he said, "I told you." And Charles de Gaulle had to run the French resistance without a country, without a treasury. Luckily, they had colonized, so they just went to their French colonies. But then also after the war,
Luckily, an interesting.
I know,
Yeah.
weirdly, I say that with a lot of irony. Anyway, and so then after the war, and this was so apparent when you were in Hungary and Vienna, is the winners decide. Not only that, you've heard winners write history, but winners get to decide how things get divided up and what the results are. And so, like, part of the deal with World War II, what set it up is that in World War I, they were so harsh with the war payments for Germany needing to pay back,
The
that
reparations.
all the reparations, all of that, that it put them in this huge economic crisis. And so it really set the stage very badly. Like in World War I, Hungary lost like 45% of their land. To this day, they still have never gotten it back, you know? And you're just like, what in the world? What is happening? So so Charles de Gaulle at the end of World War II, Roosevelt looked at him and said, "You're not in charge of France. Go on. We will figure this out." And Charles marched his little self up in Notre Dame and said to the bishops, you are going to anoint me as in charge, or we are going to be screwed, and we are not going to be at the table when they make decisions about France." And everybody's just like, okay. And so he like makes the bishops anoint him. 6 weeks later, he does get elected as president, serves for 50 years. How about that, Roosevelt? You did not get to serve for 50 years. Anyway, so I've studied all of that, the leadership parts of it. But then, man, from a marketing and persuasion and propaganda of what we did in World War II, so Austria voluntarily annexes. And one of the ways that we had to use to try to win the war is that we had to get Austria back on our side, and we had to get Austria the resistance movement. And so they literally started a marketing campaign, the Allies, the good guys, started a marketing campaign that poor Austria, they were the first victims of Nazi Germany. And so trying to get Austrian national pride going to try to convince people to fight against the Nazis. And you're just like, okay. And they kept telling that story, this completely made up story, for 40 years. And they didn't actually come clean until 1980 to say, excuse me, but no, actually, this is what really happened. And so, but they did it to try to win the war. And it was just fascinating. So you had all of these war criminals that had did terrible and atrocious things that were never held accountable, that were actually elected to Austrian government after the war. So that was fascinating to me. The Habsburgs, like, we just don't study enough about them
I
in
don't know what the
America.
Habsburgs are.
You don't? Okay, so
No.
they ran Europe for about 200 no, maybe it's like 400 years. They were in Austria.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And anyway, so there's just there's thing and I think the reason why some of that stuff is like really um poignant for me is kind of the context of the political cycle that we're living in, of like that we allow things to, like, for the greater good, we allow things to be told in a certain way, and then when it comes time to actually hold people accountable, that's really hard. um the importance of propaganda and marketing, we think it's only because of this day and time and social media. No, no, it has
Mm.
been all, since television. So that, and Hungary, like, they had, like, 3 times in their history where they were overtaken, and
Mhm.
the people that came and rescued them then stayed. Like the Soviets. "Yay! You rescued us from the Nazis." And then the Soviets stayed, and then they had to live under communism for 45 years. And you're just like, "Oh my."
Well, and the United States kind of has a history of doing that as well, of
Yes!
rescuing people and then
Staying.
staying.
Yes. Well,
Um,
we ain't the only ones that do it. It doesn't make it right. Doesn't make it right what we do.
yeah.
It's just so fascinating. So there was just some things like that that I just like. I probably need to find like a world history nerd friend. They will probably correct the, because I like to like summarize it all and make it into like, here's how I.
Well, I think this is what you and I do kind of a lot, is like, hey, I'm not the history expert. I'm not necessarily the biology expert. I'm not the psychology expert. But can I tell you about this big thing in like a layman's terms? And it's
Yes.
like, even if I got it 80, 90% spot on and like 10 to 20%, like, well, it's not, I mean, I think iffy. Yes,
Yes. Yeah.
kind of like what you said. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, but the point,
Right.
the takeaway
Yeah.
still sticks, even if I didn't get it 100% accurate. And to your point earlier about like what's a good story, we are often, if I can get 80 to 90% to get to my conclusion, to get to my good, the
Yeah.
good story, like the point of it, that's okay. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
and that's not the point. I'm not writing a history paper on the
Mm-mm.
exact details and finite everything.
Yeah.
So
I would
that's
say the
cool.
other thing that is, we love Europe because it's old. And when we think about it being old, we're thinking like 1000, 1200, 1500. Those were the years these buildings would be built. Well, then you go to Athens
Mm,
and you realize the rest of Europe is still very young compared to Athens, where it's like, no, this thing was built in 250 BC.
mhm.
Like, that is crazy town. Now, I did a lot of joking around to say that, like, I learned later that in Athens, like, they would just, if buildings fell down, they would just, put dirt on top of it and build on top of it. It's just not, this is what we do. We weren't that fascinated with old things. But it's only been in the 18 and 1900s that they've actually sent, archaeologists to excavate and to find all these things. And so I would joke a lot and go, see that pile of rocks? That pile of rocks, one of those 6 piles of rocks, that's where Socrates was held in prison. And you're like,
Mhm.
it's literally just a pile of rocks. Like, if somebody didn't know that's what was there. So Athens was crazy old, like crazy old. And I got to go to the place where the birthplace of democracy, which is meaningful to me. Um, and also Greece has a very long history. It was fun for them to say like, oh, these are Greek towers or Greek columns, but then the Romans came in, and you can see this building was added on to by the Romans because this, anyway. So,
The different kind of columns, the Ionic, the Corinthian, the all of those things. Yes.
yep.
I do
Yeah.
remember that from my brief architecture
Yeah.
fascination.
And I got to go to Corinth. I talked about just going to Greece in general. I got to go to Corinth and got to stand in the place where they say that this is where Paul was put on trial.
Mhm.
So one place is prison, one place is trial. Yeah. Anyway, so that was, it's funny because I think that Corinth, while I was experiencing it, I was pretty disappointed, and I knew that later I would be like, no, that was cooler than I thought it was. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like I just needed a little more distance to be able to see the cool factor of, and we kind of were like, we're not sure if we'll ever go back to Athens. It's
Hmm.
once you've been there, like we were there for a whole week, so we saw a lot. Um, so we wanted to go ahead and take in Corinth while we were there.
I have a random thought that's just popped into my head of an observation on some of your travels. You have followed in the footsteps of democracy's history kind of a lot. So the birthplace of democracy in Greece, the I distinctly remember one time you guys took a family trip to New York, DC, and Philadelphia without me. It was like the very first family trip that like Sammy wasn't on. Sammy was an adult and had a marriage and all these things. And the moment that is coming to mind is that you guys were in Philadelphia. I think it's Philadelphia, somewhere in Pennsylvania, and it was
Philadelphia.
this is the place that
We were in Constitution Hall. Yeah, where they
that
signed the Declaration of Independence.
the
Oh, no.
place where George Washington handed the keys to John Adams, and a peaceful transfer of power. And it
Oh,
was the
yes, yes, yes.
first time, like one of the first documented times in history, that a peaceful transfer of power and like
Without a family.
without a family. Yes.
Without family. Yep.
Not from family member to family member. And so even that being like that was a turning point in democracy that we
Yeah.
could transfer power peacefully
Yep.
and it be okay. And anyway, I just thinking about like, wow, you've actually like been to these cool places. Maybe not in a linear fashion. You didn't do it
Right.
right in order, but that's really cool. And that's a neat moment. And like a spot where it's like neat, it's like a pile of rocks. But like really big things happened here in this
Well,
spot.
and what was cool about that trip, it was our National Treasure trip, is what we call. So anybody that's watched the movie National Treasure, we went to we started in New York. We did all the sites in New York that were related to National Treasure. We went to Philadelphia. We did the tour there at Constitution Hall. I think that's where it's at. Um, saw the Liberty Bell, all of that. But then and here's the coolest thing for me is that then we drove down to DC and we did a tour of the Capitol, and they're telling stories about Philadelphia. And we were like, we were literally in that room just like 2 days ago. And it was
Mhm.
cool to see the connections like so close. Um, that I really enjoyed that. To that point, this trip we didn't intend to. I told you how we picked Greece, which is like literally, oh, it's $500. Oh, it's warm. Oh, we need a break from the cold. We don't want to be cold for 3 whole weeks, so we're going to go a little bit warm. It was 60 degrees Fahrenheit. Turns out Athens was the birthplace of originally the Olympics, but then also modern day Olympics in 1896 got started. And so we went to the Olympic Stadium. So we also are starting to pick up kind of a lot of connections to the Olympics. Our last trip, we went to the Paris Olympics, and then we went to Chamonix, which was they had the Olympics there in like, it was the first Winter Olympics was in Chamonix in like 1926 or somewhere in there. So, and the Winter Olympics has gone back to Chamonix in 4 years. So, and so will
Nice.
I, because I love Chamonix. It's
So will
fabulous.
I.
So will I. Anyway, so we're also kind of collecting this weird, cool connections to that. I should probably like, feels like this is turning into like a mind map of, and it informs something about how I think about the world. And I don't know that I've overlaid those things, right? Because the Olympic
Yeah.
spirit is this idea of working hard toward a goal and overcoming the odds. Democracy is a little bit like overcoming the odds, and like the people have to speak. And then when the World War II was actually when democracy was like, from my perspective, it was the most in jeopardy. There's a TV series on Netflix that shows what might have happened if the Allies wouldn't have won. It's
Yeah.
terrifying. I can't even watch it. I only watched a couple episodes, and I'm like, that's too close. It was too close.
Yeah. Can I jump us?
Yeah,
ADHD.
for sure.
You had a really cool meal. Can you tell us about your really, really cool meal? Is it fair to say probably the best meal you ate the entire trip you
Oh,
had?
for sure, for sure, for
Yeah.
sure. Here's the other thing is that, let me set the context to say that Barry and I are not historically this like I have friends that they will tell you every restaurant they go to see in Mexico City, and they eat their way through, and we drink our way through. um, not on purpose, but because we just have found that cocktails are just have been this fun thing. This trip, I ate my way through Europe. Like, I feel like I did a much better job. Like, I go to New York City, and I'm much more like I have a checklist of street food I have to eat in New York. So I'm a weirdo. I love street food. It was very funny. We landed in Vienna, and our hotel was right next to this the world street food restaurant, and so it had stuff from Israel and all over. Greece, and you could have hot dogs, any kind of street food you wanted from about 8 different countries. So that was cool. But because we chased after the top 50 bars in the world, then I was like, well, what are the top 50 restaurants? And I think I was doing what's there to do in Madrid. And I stumbled across Coque, and it's a Michelin star restaurant. And
It's a 2 Michelin star
it has
restaurant.
2 Michelin stars. That's
That's like
right.
a big deal. I've never been to a 2 Michelin star restaurant. I've been to 2 different 1-star restaurants. Phenomenal. And like I was like, a 2-star?
2-star, yeah. They had
What?
3 years that they had a 1-star, and then they had a 2-star. Um, so here's the thing is that we were gonna be in Madrid for Valentine's Day. This meal was gonna be an investment, to the point that I was like, "Oh, I have to actually plan the rest of my trip." Like, I had to get really specific on the rest of the excursions to know if I could even afford to hold this in the budget, right? We travel a lot, but we still on budget, y'all. Um, and so we did. Except Angela didn't read the fine print correctly. That's okay. So what you do is you like our Uber driver drops us off, and the doorman opens the door, and then he hands us off to the next person who I think is like the hostess. And they're like, no, they're just kind of the greeter. And then they hand us to the person who's going to walk us through the restaurant. And from the minute we got out of our Uber, we were pretty much for the next 3 hours not unattended. Um, they take us down to the lounge. I knew that we were going to go to 3 different parts of the restaurant because this Coque has 3 brothers that run it. And so you get to experience each one of the brothers kind of take on the food. So they take us to this lounge where there's this girl that is singing, and it's one other couple and us. And then they leave. They actually pull the other couple. And so it's just us sitting there. We get a cocktail and we get our first appetizer bite. And there's only 2 bites the whole night that I did not enjoy, and that was one of them because it was clams. I tried it. I was like, "Oh, nope, I still don't like clams." Then they take us to this next little, like, table display that has these beautiful it's just a beautiful room, and they give us our next bite. I don't even know, like, that was the lounge table, right? And then they take us to the wine cellar, and we get to just explore this wine cellar, and, like, there was wines that were, like, behind lock and key that you couldn't touch and see, and we got another sample. Actually, we got 2 samples in the wine cellar. This was cool because they had 1 sample that was with the champagne, and then they took us into this other part that was, like, designed to be like the room felt like you were in, like, the 1500s. And so,
Mm.
like, the bite that we got, um, was supposed to emulate, like, oxtail, or something. Anyway, it was Barry's favorite bite the whole night. But you were in this room that was very rustic and felt very old, and they had like the anyway. So then they take us upstairs to the dining room, and we had I don't know. The whole thing was 14 courses. So oh no, they took us to the kitchen. First, we got to go to the kitchen and have a bite in the kitchen and get to see kind of behind the scenes there a little bit. And then they take us to the dining room. And at the dining room, of course, we have, I don't know, 8 or 9 more courses. I've lost track because there was 14 total, and including one of them that they actually cook at your table.
Hmm.
Every single one, they would come out and explain, "This is what it is, and here's what's going on." One of the things they put, like, they had a little holder of dry ice, and so once they served you the food, the ice cream, then they poured the dry ice, and so your table is just full of this, smoke the whole time. Anyway, it was incredible. And then, the bill comes and we realized that I had read it wrong. And so, oopsie. The price I thought for 2 people was the price per person, so yay.
But the best
But
food you've
it
had.
was so good. It
That's
was
the
so good. There was only one dish that, my phone, like, somebody needed me to approve something. I was super grumpy, and it was the worst fish. It was some kind of fish, and they were like, "Oh, and here's how we made it." And they bring the thing to your table to show you how you make it, and it was the fishiest fish smelling. It was terrible, and I then tried to eat it, and anyway, there was only one. But yes, besides that one and the
yeah.
clams, very, very, very good food. Phenomenal.
Our experience at Barcelona at a Michelin star restaurant, similar, different locations that we got to go to. At one point, there a table decoration in the middle. It was like salt, and on the top it had some like seasoning that was in the shape of their name. And they were like, "Thanks so much." Several courses in, and they're like, "By the way, thank you all for helping cure your sardines for the meal." They grab that salt dish and they dump it in like on the table, and inside it is the food. And they're like, "Great, we're gonna go take this back to the kitchen and cook it up for you out for
Oh
you
my
now." We're
gosh.
like, "What? Like it's just been here the whole time?" And I had no
Yeah.
idea. So then we were like, that was funny. One of the people in our group, he like looked under the table. He was like, "Any other surprises to like try
Yeah.
spot and find?" It was. It's just so cool to be in a restaurant that puts so much care and attention into every single second of the experience from
Yep.
start to finish,
Yep.
and to be cared for and attended to,
Yep.
and all of the things. And I sometimes feel wildly out of place, and also I then like, we're just going to go with it. And yes, please explain to me how the wine I'm drinking was grown near a volcano, and so you can really get that volcanic ashy notes in it. I'm like, yes, I can taste the volcano in this wine. I
On
don't
the 5th
know.
glass of wine that I've had. Like, yeah.
I don't know. That is genuine. It's a real story about taste the volcano. And we were like, ah, yes. Ah, yes, the volcano. Like it sort of just comes back to the joke because it was apparently a very big deal, these particular grapes. And I wish I could remember more and maybe respect it a little bit more. But I was like, you just sound
It's
ridiculous at a
cool.
certain point,
Yeah.
like the volcano wine. And
Literally, I mean, when like, every single different course, we had different utensils, and not like the same fork, like a small fork.
not
It
like
was
a
like
clean fork.
not a
Yeah.
clean fork, but like a different, like, shape, color, feel. Like
What was your
every plate was
dessert?
different. I had 4 desserts.
Oh, of course you did.
Like my favorite was this, like, there was some sort of ice cream, and they flambéed the pears right at the table and
Ah,
put them all together. There was a chocolate tasting. Um, yeah, no, unbelievable. That's why I had to take a picture of the menu, because there were just so many different things. That's one that I'll probably be telling the story forever, because I'll be like, "Oh yeah, I forgot. Oh yeah, I forgot. There was also this thing. Oh yeah, and there was this thing."
so any bad stories you want to tell? Anything that
Um,
I was like, here's the thing, to give you a caveat first, and for everyone else listening,
bad is
you're
that's
pretty
judgy.
well, you're pretty fresh off the trip.
Yeah.
And one of the things about being a friend to like listen to the stories is sometimes hearing the like, I've not got the polished version of the story down yet. And so if I'm asking you this question and you're like, I mean, yeah, I definitely had some bad moments and they might feel a little too raw to post on the internet.
No.
I haven't figured out the expressible version of the story. That's allowed as well.
Well, so here's the interesting you say that, because I will tell you that there are times on my trips where I get grumpy about something, and there's a voice in my head that'll go, "Oh, poor little rich girl. Me, me, me."
Mm.
And I'm like, "Okay, that's not helpful. Thank you. I'm still allowed to have a bad day, even though I'm having an epic trip." So, the 2 most expensive Olympic tickets that we bought, I'm sorry, I'm imagining myself 4 years from now listening to this and like, "Could you talk about money just a little bit more?" Yeah, I can. Um, there were 2 tickets that were.
Hey, Annabeth Gorman would be grateful. We have an episode
Oh, there
about
you
that,
go.
about we should be talking more about money.
There
Like,
you go.
that's okay to like
Yeah.
highlight these things costed money. These things didn't cost money. This is our approach. So we're
Yeah, I
owning
mean,
it.
the 2 of us, we did 7 events, we spent $1,700 combined. So, for
I
everybody
think
that
that's really
thinks
helpful to know.
I there yeah, so, like, I had a friend that was like, "Oh my gosh, I really wanna go to Greece." I'm like, "Go in February, round trip ticket was $500 and $500 for the week in an Airbnb," and they were like, "I could go soon." And I'm like, "Yes, you
Hmm.
can go soon." Like, and then I ate a lot of food is very inexpensive in Athens. It is a
Hmm.
very affordable place to eat. Um, anyway, so my most expensive tickets were um, opening ceremony, and that was like a big rock that I definitely wanted, and so was willing to spend the $250 a ticket per person. Well, a few weeks before the trip, we actually had the opportunity to get figure skating on Sunday night. Now, what's tricky about that is that we had only booked our Airbnb for Friday and Saturday, or Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And when we reached out, our Airbnb host was like, "Sorry, it's already booked on Sunday night." I'm like, "Crap." So we had to add an extra night of Airbnb. We were going to go to Venice for 2 nights or for a night, 2 days. Anyway, so we get these tickets, and the tickets for the figure skating were, I think, the most expensive. I think they were 275 each. And so Barry's like, "You said if I got figure skating, you didn't care." And so I bought them. I'm like, "Okay, here we
And
go."
this was the figure skating team finals.
Team finals. Yes.
Yeah.
So that means I got to see the pairs, top 5, and I got to see the men's and women. So it was a great event to get to, and part. So I
A
go,
sample platter of
it
figure
was
skating.
cool. When we get to the opening ceremonies, we got there way early, and we go up and go up and go up. And I literally am standing in, or looking at my seat, and I can count 10 rows higher than me in our section. Now there was one other section that had another 20 rows, but still, I'm like, okay, we literally the nosebleed section. Cool. And then I don't know how, but it was like so cramped in there. Maybe because you had to put coat. It was an outdoor event. Anyway, we were cram packed in there, and I'm like, well, that's okay. At least we can see the screen. Okay, it's fine. Then we go to figure skating, and I sit down
Oh,
on
keep
Sunday
going.
night.
Mhm.
And when I look, I have to look through a bar and over all of these other seats. I can see maybe 40% of the rink. And I was like, "I spent more money on these than anything else." And I had to literally text my friend and be like, "Hi, I know I'm super lucky. I know I am super blessed because I am at the Olympics and I am at figure skating. But can I just say I am about to burst into tears because this is so incredibly horrible. See, like, you know how you buy tickets on Broadway that say obstruction, or
Yeah.
maybe you don't, but they'll say obstructive view. This was way more than obstructive view, and it did not disclose that it was just obstructed view. Now, luckily, I was able to sit there and text with my friend, and he was very kind. And he was like, "Oh my God, I took a picture from where I could see." And he's like, "Oh, golly, that's so disappointing. It's also kind of cool. Yes, it's cool that you're there." And yeah, and he was very kind to listen to me. And when Barry was waiting in line for a t-shirt, and so when he gets there and sees them, he's like, "Oh my God." He's like, "Oh, I think I have to go to the bathroom." Well, it turns out he went to the bathroom because he was freaking out that he had spent so much money, and I was like, knew I was gonna be disappointed. Anyway, now how did it turn out? It turned out I was not cramped in there. There was an aisle right in front of us, and so we could stand up anytime we wanted. There was nobody behind us. We were like on the back wall. We could walk wherever we wanted to walk, to watch whatever we wanted to watch, to take whatever pictures we wanted to see. Like it turned out to be lovely to have so much you weren't cramped into, because we had been at hockey game where we were cramped in the middle of, not, it wasn't cramped at the hockey game, but we were in the middle of a seat. And if you wanted to get up and walk around, like you were out of luck. You were sitting there. Curling, we were only 4 from the end. So anyway, so it turned out lovely, but that was the hardest moment of the whole trip, I think, is when I sat down and I went, are you kidding me right now?
Mm.
Like, okay, everything happens for a reason. It's gonna be okay. But right this minute, I'm just gonna let myself feel disappointed. I'm just gonna let myself feel sad. I'm just gonna for a minute. And all I did is had to, like, if you look, your body cannot stay activated. I talked about this in the podcast when I did the podcast when I was paragliding in the Alps, and I'm like, you can't stay activated for very long. And so if you'll just lean into it and let it like ride itself out, then it will dissipate. So
Well,
yeah.
thank you for sharing that with us,
Yeah.
and the ups and downs. I think even the I got to talk to you a little bit very shortly after the opening ceremonies, and I remember we watched it at home. And the moment, if you didn't watch it, there's a moment where they have all of the Olympic rings that like fly in and come together and then like burst into fireworks. And I started crying at home because I was like, oh my gosh, they're there. They're witnessing it in person and it must be beautiful and magnificent. And I'm just so happy for them. And I just so like, oh, overcome with feelings. And I called and I was like, oh, did you cry? Wasn't it beautiful? And you were like, there was a guy's knees in my back the whole time. Yeah, it was good. Loved it. Was there for like 7 hours.
We
And
were.
the
It
guy's
really legit.
knees were in my back the whole time.
His knees were
So,
not in my back the whole time. His knees were in my back only 3 hours at the time. Anyway, every time he would, move or wiggle or whatever. No, what's funny about that is that I was finally like, it's 10:30 at night. I'm like,
oh, and
I
you guys
said,
also were like, apparently this is the first year that they had multiple locations, and it was so dumb because we couldn't get to see anything. Maybe that was what Barry said. I don't think you said that. I do think Barry is the
well,
one who
so
made
there
a
was,
comment.
I was like, can we go ahead and sneak out? And Barry goes, because it was after the all the countries had walked
The
in,
Parade of Nations.
the Parade of Nations, and Barry goes, they haven't lit the torch yet. And I was like, oh yeah, I forgot. That's the big deal. Well, the Parade of Nations was also disappointing because, to your point, they had the opening ceremonies in the Parade of Nations at 5 different cities. And so that allowed those athletes to get to walk. And a lot
For
of
the
times they don't
first
get to, for the
time.
first time, they
They've
get to do
never
this.
been able to walk in a Parade of Nations, and it was this beautiful moment. And at home, it's a seamless experience because you just
Right.
like quick camera cut.
Yeah, and for us, it was like this girl, this model walks out in the full thing. She has full, I don't know if you saw her picture, her sunglasses with the name, and especially the first one is Greece. And there, to me, I'm like, I think then they should like get some people to represent. You can't tell me you don't have any former Olympians that are hanging out in Milan that they couldn't anyway, whatever. So then they would flash on the screen and show you other cities where they were getting to do, and that was cool at all. But anyway, it was weird, and it was probably 10, the first 10 countries had no athletes, and you're like,
Wow.
so strange. It's a very strange experience to be
Well,
there.
and what was funny is we were getting interviews with the other athletes that were like, there were some of the athletes that were so emotional. They're like, I've been to the Olympics a couple times. I've never gotten to do this. My
Yeah,
event is always first and whatever. And
yeah.
then there was one girl that they had interviewed earlier in the day. And she was like, I've gotten a chance to do it. My event is tomorrow morning. I'll be in my room knitting. Hope everybody has a great time. It was like, I have to do what I got to do because I'm not
Yeah,
here for the
yeah.
Parade of Nations, the opening ceremonies. I'm here to win
Win.
tomorrow. And
Right.
so I'm going to be at home doing what I need to do.
Well,
That was
because
funny.
like it took, I mean, if you drove from Milan to Cortina, because we talked to some people that drove, even just driving straight over, it was 3.5, 4 hours
Yeah.
to drive, maybe even longer than that. So anyway, I get why they couldn't. It's very spread out.
And it was
France
late at
was
night,
spread out.
right? And it was like,
I
because
mean,
you
it
guys were
started at
there.
7. Yeah, yeah. We got home that night at midnight.
Yeah.
Yeah, it started at 7 p.m. and it got done at midnight. Yeah. So
Um,
but here's the other thing is that they didn't light the torch in the stadium
they
either.
didn't.
Like they just do a torch run.
If you
Now
would have left to go duck out, you might have seen
we
it.
could have gone to that.
You
We
didn't
weren't
know.
gonna. Yeah,
I
no,
mean,
it's so funny. Those are the kind of things where you're just like, okay, but you were there. Yes, we were there. And the next day we went and saw the torch. The torch was shaped like a ball that we have here that our grandkids play with. So that was super fun.
mhm,
Um, anyway, it was a whole Da Vinci themed trip too. We got a lot of Da Vinci
I
kind
like
of in
it.
our thing. Yeah.
What's the
Do you
thing
want
you
to
missed most about being here at home?
besides my kitties
Well, I was gonna
and my
comment on the fact that you've been home for like 2 hours and your cats can't leave us alone during this
they
podcast
can't.
because they're like, "Mom is home."
Yeah, absolutely the people for sure. I offered to get you your gift and you said no, you have
Oh
to show it
yeah,
on
I
the
forgot.
podcast. So
I said because
dun,
our
dun,
life is
dun,
content now, so we're
dun.
gonna do it here.
So
Are
these
those
are
earrings?
they're the earrings that I got you.
Oh, that's
And I
beautiful.
watched the street vendor making some like this. These were already made, but I watched him make them. So those are
Kind of
really
like
cool.
you watched the street
Yes.
vendor make the earrings I'm wearing right
Yes.
now, which I wore on purpose because you got me these at the Summer Olympics
There you
from
go.
that trip that you had.
Yep. So I got these in Athens. I got my earrings also in Athens on like the first day we were there at this street vendor. And I've worn them every single day and they're still in really good shape. So that's exciting. The other thing is that I can show this on the podcast because my grandkids won't see the podcast. Um, oh, sorry, my cat's already been playing with these. But these are
That's
the
funny.
one of the things about the Olympics is that they have like the mascots, and the
Mhm.
mascots have like little stuffies. And so I got the little stuffies are so stinking cute.
Oh, that's so
And
funny. That is
that
not the
one
stuffy that I thought it was going to be.
that was for Henry. Yeah, we didn't
Uh, a
um
scout? Isn't that what it's called?
yeah, this is the flow.
No,
Flow.
but you know I'm talking about the animal mascots that were there with you all.
Yeah,
No?
I don't know what you're talking about.
You know what I'm talking about.
And then there's so they very much to me represent Sweet Max, Henry, and look, doesn't Peter look like he's getting in trouble?
That's
So
funny.
yeah, so those are the things I got for the grandbabies.
No, I have to bring this back up though because it is the Stoats, Tina and
Flow.
something and Milo,
Oh
the animal ones that look kind of like otters but not really an
yes,
otter. That's what I
yes.
thought it was going to be because you said you got the mascots. I did have a friend who sent me a really funny article. He was like, I don't know why this feels like it's right up Sammy's alley. It said which other Olympic mascots could the Stoats, Tina, and Milo slaughter in cold blood? And it was like a battle royale of Olympic mascots,
Oh
and
my
it's very funny.
gosh,
Apparently, they are
that's
very brutal animals. I don't know if you knew this or not,
I did not
but
know
they
that.
can like take down animals much larger than them. And
Well,
there you go.
Flo was at a lot of our events and is a human, so
There you
that's
go.
the animal mascot. So
Yeah, and those
anyway,
cute little hats that everybody could get, like wear. And I
hmm
think you guys said that was like, yeah, it was way too expensive to
it was
actually
like
buy one of those hats.
$45 for this little hat, and I'm like, yeah, no,
Yeah,
no.
I love it.
I yeah, we had a great time. And yeah, hindsight, some things I would do different.
Hmm.
I think we like February for slow travel. So typically we go and spend 3 or 4 weeks, in Central America. This was definitely a fast travel, and fast traveling in the winter is not as I liked winter travel, but I think next time I want to like plant myself somewhere if I'm going to do winter time and not
Hmm.
do so much bouncing around because I think I counted up 7 or 8 lodging. But when you're doing 5 countries and 6 cities, then you kind of have to swap around.
Right.
So, but still, that was probably we could have cut one city, and I
Still
would probably
fun.
been yeah, yeah. It was just almost a little too much.
Which city would you have cut? Knowing what you know now, knowing you wouldn't have known that then.
Um, I would cut Madrid,
Mm.
but
Even though that was where you vacationed?
Yeah, because all I did is sleep. Like, I
Oh.
stayed a lot of my version of vacation was like, that's where I rested. You know, we went to the
Mhm.
carnival. Um, I don't from a logistics standpoint, because man, when I landed in Florida and
Sure.
I was like, "Oh, yes, that was lovely." I mean, the 9-hour flight just felt good. Um, I don't know, because see, like, I really, really wanted to go to Vienna, and like, Budapest was super gritty, and I loved it for such different reasons, and Vienna felt like Stepford for me, and so but if I wouldn't have gone to Vienna, I think I would have been, like, disappointed, and I think going to them at the same time was super helpful to me for context-wise,
Mhm.
so I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't know what I would have actually cut, but I'm just saying, like, in the future when I plan, I think that 5th extra was a little much.
I love it.
Yeah.
If you could leave our listeners with one thing from your trip or one thing, what would you want to leave people with?
Well, what I would say is that I did this whole trip with a backpack for like my instead of a rolling bag, I did a big backpack. And then I did a second bag, which was also technically a backpack. That was a little bit tricky, but I there were still things I did not wear. And I think that there's often times when people what holds people back from not going on trips is they think it's going to be too expensive. And it can be. Like, I have friends that have gone to all inclusives and they spend 4 days and they spend 5 or 7, $10,000 on a 4-day trip, and you can do it different. That's what I would say. I have another friend that he doesn't go to any of the big tourist places, so he goes to Croatia, he goes to Serbia, he goes to all the off the line offline places. Now there you don't get a chance to see some of this stuff, but, like, we stayed in Athens for that $500 for the week, um, we were across the street from the Acropolis Museum. Like,
Mhm.
we were right in town. So, you could definitely and we choose to do that because then we save time, so
And
we'll pay.
transportation costs as well.
Yeah, yeah, so we'll save a little bit of money, but it'll save time, so we'll buy that. Um, but just being willing to shop and willing to, like, kind of look around and do things that are a little bit off the beaten path, like, one of the things we did in Paris is that we went to the Olympics Monday through Thursday, and,
Mhm.
like, lodging was a lot cheaper Monday through Thursday. Like, so there's ways to do things. I could do a whole blog series on great deals we've gotten on Monday night travel. Like, and it's like what people don't normally do. I had somebody that was like, "Oh, I wanna go to Germany, but it's $1,800." I'm like, "When? What are you talking about?" And I granted it was Oktoberfest, but still, I'm like, "Are you traveling on a Saturday? Like, that's a rookie move. Don't travel on a Saturday." Like, travel on a Tuesday or a Thursday and, like, come on those off days,
Yeah.
to be able to just start to look. So it's more accessible than you think. You don't need as much stuff in your bag as you think. Um, and so much of what we do is because of fear. So, like, we
Mhm.
overpack because we're afraid that we'll get into a situation. Now, we got there and I had a hard time sleeping. So, guess what? We had to go to a pharmacy and we had to figure out how to say melatonin to somebody that did not speak English. It worked out. It's fine. Um, and so I did that in 2 different countries. I had to find melatonin. Why I didn't take melatonin, I don't know. Anyway, so just, like, don't assume you can't do something, and, like, one time we got $24 each way tickets to Orlando, but you could only take a backpack. So, we flew to Orlando, we went to a thrift store, we bought some clothes, we were did for 3 or 4 days, we returned them to the thrift store, donated them back. I did that this time. I My feet hurt after 2 days or after in the cold, and so I went to essentially a Dollar General like store in Vienna and bought $10 little UGG looking boots. And guess what? In Madrid, I didn't have room to bring them home. So I left them. They were $10. I got my Wendy's worth. So anyway, it's more accessible than you think.
Yeah, I think to the point you had a friend who was like, "Oh, I didn't realize that I could get to Greece for $1,000." You you never know until you look.
Yeah.
And if you have these big dreams that are future, one day, not possible, not achievable in your head, look, it's free to go shop online. It's actually a lot of times free to talk to a travel agent to say, like, what generally is this cost? Could I do a thing
Yeah,
like this? You don't have to even know all the ways to get all the
that's
deals.
exactly
There
right.
are so many things that are closer than you think.
Before we did the Paris Olympics, I like Olympics was like a never, never, someday, maybe, hopefully we'll get there. And I think the Paris Olympics, we spent less than $1,000. Now, I think we only did 3 events, uh, including beach volleyball on the Eiffel Tower lawn. We didn't go
Mhm.
to a lot of US events. We didn't get to see the US play a lot, but that was just what our budget could allow. And so it just, there's so many things that have been more accessible than we knew. We talked to somebody that was like, hey, when they were in the lottery for the Olympics and the lottery was making them pick 3 events, and so they never did the thing. We never did that. We only bought one-off tickets in the resale market. And
Mhm.
so we had learned that that was a thing that you could do. And so I don't know. I know that we've explored a lot and we love to share, kind of our experiences of how this works. Um, when we go down to Central America and stay for a month, we usually spend less than $2,000 for a whole month. So that's the other thing is that when you're traveling internationally, if you can look at longer stays in Airbnbs, they'll often give you discounts.
Mhm.
And you can just like, I just play around and be like, oh, well, what if I went this week in March? What if I went this week in April? What if I get this week in whatever? So anyway,
Can I add a note
yeah,
about your trip and my experience with it?
sure.
And um, one of the things that I have struggled with this past month is a lot of jealousy of life seasons, of
Yeah.
I'm in a really different spot. And the idea of traveling with five is a lot harder and young ones and all of
We
these
took a lot of road
things.
trips when we had
And
5. We did
and
a lot
it's
of road trips.
sometimes is hard when you have friends that you're like, I want to go do that now. Like the FOMO of like, I want to go with you guys to the next Olympics. And it's like, ugh, like I'll also have 3 kids I gotta either take with me or find childcare for or different things like that.
Sure.
Um, it's okay. It's okay to be jealous and it's okay to be hard. And there are times where I am able to experience like a joyous jealous where it's like I'm
Mm.
crying on your behalf because I'm just so excited that you're there and it's just so moving. I had my friend Michaela lived in Germany for a year and I was so jealous in the best way of like, that sounds so incredible. And then there are times where I am jealous in not the best way, in the way that I'm like, this is like annoying and like I don't want to hear about it because I'm dealing with kids who are throwing up and snow days where my kids' grandparents aren't here to help me out and blah 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 blah. And that's also okay. And that's also freaking awesome to like be here in my season. And simultaneously, we had an opportunity on President's Day to go on like an adventure and we kept being like, man, like this may not be the best decision to do with kids. Like roughly speaking, my husband and I are Survivor fans. They had hidden immunity idols all over the country. They were like, okay, we could drive an hour and a half and go to this cave and hike 15 to 40 minutes in this cave with 3 children while they're off school and like go have this experience. And there's a chance that this could really go poorly and like waiting in line, going through the cave. Also, one of my children is like super terrified of caves. So like that's the other thing is that the last time we tried to go into a cave, I mean like at 3 had like a panic attack, like could not get him to go into the cave. And we're like, we're gonna just go to another cave. It's gonna be great. I think it'll be totally fine. And we continued to tell ourselves this is either going to be a wicked fun adventure or one of those 100 bad days, 100 good stories. And it like at least let it be a good story. Okay. So what can we do to set aside like grumpiness and frustration as best we can to let it be a good story? regardless what happens. It ended up being an amazing day, and the kids loved it. They had a great time. Peter, the entire time in the cave, just kept saying, I'm so brave. I'm so brave. I'm so brave. And it was like, you are brave, kid. Way to go. Like, so we were able to do that. I was able to take an hour and a half road trip, and I didn't let the fear that it was going to be a really crappy day, or that the kids were going to ruin it, or that it wouldn't be as exciting or as cool as we thought it was going to be. Like, if we did it anyway, we made the decision to go while we were very unsure that it was a good decision. And I'm grateful. And so do what you can with what's in front of you. And
Yeah.
whether your life season is what such that maybe going to Europe to go to the Olympics for 3 weeks is more achievable than you thought, do it. And if you're in a season where like maybe an hour and a half road trip to this like off the beaten path cave in Arkansas as what you've got available for you, then do it. And so figuring out how can you honor that thing that's right in front of you, even if it's not where you want to be, even if it's, you know.
One year we did a road trip to Kansas City, and we went to a KOA campground and did a little camping cabin that was really cheap for the 5 of us. And so I think some people have said, is this new that you travel this extensively? Like, yes. And there's an element of no, because like my kids were very well traveled by the time they graduated high school.
Mhm.
Um, and we did it with, I mean, I made friends. I traveled a lot to places. My friend that was in the military, like we went and visited them all the time. We slept on a lot of couches and floors, and it's just like part of the thing. We went and saw family a lot.
Mhm.
Um,
Well, and you have said, so where I'm at right now, where I'm like, golly, I'm so freaking jealous of what Angela is up to. You have said before, no one was jealous of your life when you had 3 small kids in your 20s and
nope.
things were tight and everything was a lot. And that's seasons and that's
In
life.
100%. In my 20s, my friends were going to Jamaica for girls' weekend. They were taking these every year, taking these cool vacations, these cool trips in their 20s and early 30s. And I was super jealous then. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and we were like, "Ooh, we road trip to Colorado to see our friend," but,
Yeah.
yeah, it is different seasons. And, so figure out what you can do and set goals, of
Hmm.
what you want to be able to do later.
Yeah.
Um, so, because we're gonna start picking up continents next. That's our next step is, Machu Picchu is on the list.
I love it.
So let's go to South America.
Well, thank you, Angela, for sharing your stories with us and
Yep.
for letting us unpack and pick apart and all of the things. And thanks for telling us about the money of things and everything else. And we hope you guys got something out of this long, extended episode and this chance to hear more from Angela on her trip. Next week on our podcast, we are going to be talking about the difference between expectations and agreements and
Mm.
digging into this idea that continues to come back and kind of rock my world about what is the difference between what we expect of people and what we have heard from them as an agreement. So,
Which comes into a lot of conflict when you're traveling.
it does. It
if
does
if you
indeed.
aren't clear without clear agreements.
I love it. So be sure to listen in. And if you're not already subscribed to our newsletter, you can go to our website and get subscribed. BeFreakingAwesome.com. Until next time, everyone, we hope you guys go be freaking awesome.